Hello guys, this is UniversalGiant. A couple of weeks ago, to celebrate 2,000 subscribers, I asked you guys if you had any questions you wanted to ask me. And the turnout was relatively good. Not as many questions as were asked in the 1,000 subscribers special, but it gives me more time to pay closer attention to the ones that were asked. And for those of you that are only interested in specific questions, I'll have timestamps in the video description of what questions are answered when, in addition to posting the text of the question on the screen. So if you want to jump around from question to question, you can do that, or if you just want to grab a snack or something and listen to all of them one after the other, you're more than welcome to. But let's get things started. LTP asks, what got you into YouTube? I don't know if I've already answered this question previously. When I first found YouTube, it was a means of looking at games that I was interested in seeing, because reviews can only tell you so much, and this was maybe 4 years ago or so. I was looking at a couple of games that I wasn't sure whether or not to buy. And I saw a number of gameplay videos of those specific games, and it got me into seeing what other people were doing in terms of posting videos of the games, and I think the one that caught my attention the most was Mario Kart Wii, and being able to play Mario Kart games online. So seeing a bunch of people race other people online and upload those videos to YouTube, I thought were really fascinating. And that's kind of what got the ball rolling in that regard. Andomar112 asks, are you ever going to Let's Play Skyward Sword? This is something I've been considering, if only because I want to give the game another chance. When I first got Skyward Sword, I wasn't exactly blown away with it. I felt a lot of the motion controls were shoehorned in, and it didn't really offer too much that other Zelda games didn't already have, aside from the sword play, if and when it actually worked. I'm not sure if it was because I was using the old school Wii Motion Plus that the controls would recalibrate every 10 minutes or so, and it would be really difficult to get things to work the way they were intended to. But it's been a consideration of mine, not a strong one. There are a number of other games I wanted to do first, but I'm still on the fence about whether or not I want to eventually do Skyward Sword. Toy Pokemon Masters asks, will you ever do another Pokemon Let's Play? This is something I was hesitant to address in the end of Soul Silver, simply because my attitude going into it was that I didn't want to do another traditional Pokemon game as a Let's Play. There are a number of reasons for this. Heart Gold and Soul Silver hold a special place in my heart, not only because they were remakes of the Pokemon games I loved the most from when I was a child, and the very last games that I had actually played until a couple of years ago, but I don't really have a special connection with any of the other Pokemon games that I do with the second generation. And although you could say that for the first, I did livestream Fire Red anyway, so that I wouldn't do another Let's Play of it. The third generation, the fourth generation, I didn't go back to until years later. And the fifth generation, although I do very much like Black and White and Black 2, White 2, each for their own reasons, they don't hold that special connection with me, and it was difficult enough for me to find material within the Pokemon games to begin with that I think would make for interesting commentary the first time around. I mean, I'm surprised that it was as well received as it was, Soul Silver, because I didn't think I was doing anything entertaining or special with those videos. And although Pokemon games are very fun to play, I always found them very boring to watch, and although how much support you guys have given me for my Soul Silver Let's Play is making me reconsider whether or not I want to do another Pokemon Let's Play, I just don't know if I'd be able to make it nearly as interesting as I was able to do Soul Silver, and even that I'm unsure about. So it's something that I'm considering, but just like with Skyward Sword, there are a lot of other games I want to get to first, but I am going to consider it. Master31000 asks, as the Let's Play community has grown significantly since you've started, how do you view this? There's been a lot of greed happening in the community and co-ops, which have now turned into a couple of guys screaming and swearing to please the immature. But there's a lot of positives, such as channels like the Runaway Guys. Just wanted your opinion. My opinion on entertainment in general, whether or not you like it, if there's a group of people that do, God bless them. I mean, the whole thing about YouTube in general and a number of other advancing media outlets, well, I mean, not advancing media outlets, but just areas of entertainment. You don't necessarily have to like something to respect it for what it is. And even though you can find somebody else immature or just screaming and swearing like little kids, if other people find that entertaining, who are you to say that it isn't good? I mean, I can like or dislike something myself, but that doesn't mean they aren't good at what they do, and that doesn't mean they aren't entertaining other people. So I'm not trying to persuade you to think that they're good because they're popular, but there's a difference between what you like and what's successful, and what you like isn't going to necessarily reflect what somebody else likes. So you're entitled to do your own thing. I don't have any issues with it as long as you're not harming anybody or offending anybody. Are you thinking of branching into doing something else or doing something to expand yourself in Let's Playing? You have the editing skills to do it, and I think you could do something cool. I really appreciate that vote of confidence. I don't think I'm creative enough to come up with anything more than what I do now, and to be completely honest, one, I don't think I would have the time, and two, I have plenty of fun doing exactly what I'm doing right now. So even though I always feel like I'm not doing enough to separate myself from what other people have been doing, that what I'm doing isn't necessarily unique enough to make other people come over to see my stuff and say, wow, this is nothing like what I've ever seen before. I have to follow this guy. I recognize that I'm not one of those people, but I just don't know if I would be able to make myself unique enough to have that kind of draw. I do appreciate that, though. Galactic Ranger 64 asks, have you ever had any thoughts on playing through another Sonic game? Now, this is referring to when I Let's Played Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. I think it was 2 years ago, and terrible audio quality if you want to listen to it. But besides SA2, the only other Sonic game I actually own is Sonic CD, and Lord knows where the hell that disc is. So I don't really have that much exposure to Sonic games, at least not outside the last couple of years where I've seen just about every Sonic game under the sun. There are a couple that I may consider if I wind up actually getting them, but at least at this point I don't see myself doing another Sonic game in the near future. Jurojack asks, do you plan on doing a versus run against somebody? He means a single-player game racing it through to see who can beat it or 100% at first. I've actually tossed around the idea in my mind of doing a race or a versus, and if I do, it would only be of a relatively short game. I found that there are two kinds of versus races you could do. You could do a short game, which is mainly just about the game itself, like something like Link to the Past or Super Metroid, or if you want to go to another kind of game. I'm just throwing out the two that I've seen recently. But if you're looking at a relatively long game, like one of the Mario games, or a Zelda game, or one of the 3D Zelda games, something like that, I find that those races become more about the player than they do the game, and I don't think I or whoever I would probably race would be entertaining enough to entertain somebody for that length of time. But it is something I've considered, it's just not something that I've considered strongly enough to actually make it happen. RickGamer54321 asks, can you do races with subscribers in Mario Kart? Now, this is another thing that I actually considered maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I know Anthony did something like this a few years ago as well, where he had like 2 or 3 different rooms and he had 30 or 40 people racing in all of those different rooms. It is a nightmare to try to coordinate one of those things, especially with people that you don't personally know, because you have no idea who's available when and how to schedule this, and things always come up at the last minute. It's just incredibly hectic. And I simply don't know if I have the time to organize something like that. What do you use to record and make more guides? If I'm recording from the desktop, I use Fraps whenever possible, Camtasia when Fraps isn't possible. For the console, I have a Hauppauge HD PVR, and if you need any more details, feel free to ask me. 156 Bowler asks, why do you always play Nintendo games? Now, this is a bit of a lie because I have played a couple of games that weren't exclusively made by Nintendo, but I believe all of them are at least in some way related to Nintendo, mainly being present on Nintendo consoles. And the reason for this is, as you can guess, I'm a bit of a Nintendo fanboy. I don't own an Xbox or a PlayStation or any of the old Sega systems because Nintendo was the stuff that I grew up with. and I never really felt the need to explore elsewhere. And even to this point, I'm not really sure I feel that way. I mean, my little brother has a bunch of other systems, so I figure if I get curious enough to ask him, I could try out a couple of games from those systems, like the Xbox or the PlayStation, but at least at this point, I've never really been tempted to. QSSX asks, since Let's Playing has changed so much in the past years, who would you say are now your favorite and least favorite Let's Players? Now, I can answer the least right off the bat. If I don't like somebody, I simply don't watch them. So if I would put a name to anybody that I like the least, it would probably be somebody that I liked at some point before and simply haven't been following since. And that isn't necessarily fair to them, calling them my least favorite, because I did eventually like them at some point. So I don't really want to put a name to my least favorite Let's Players. Most favorite is a difficult question to answer. When I think about who you enjoy watching the most, I think about, if you have no idea what the video is, you just see that they uploaded something, whose video would you go to first? And this, I do follow a number of people with different styles, and depending on how I feel during the day, or when I'm about to watch the video, I may watch somebody else. So for instance, sometimes I'll want to watch Raukau as opposed to NCS, or Super Genius, or Nakatulili, or there are a number of different Let's Players that I follow fairly religiously, but depending on my mood, I may watch one or the other. And that's just to name a few. I know there are a couple that haven't been uploading recently, especially pcall44444. I really hope he's getting over his mono to the point where he can start uploading again. But it heavily depends on my mood. I have a short list of people who I enjoy watching fairly often, but I can't put a name to one or two specific ones that I enjoy watching the most. What do you think the Nintendo monetizing conflict will do to Let's Players and Nintendo itself? I think for the majority of the Let's Play community it means absolutely nothing, at least as long as they're just simple content ID matches. I think the ones that are hurt most by this, and I'll try not to dwell on this too long because it's a bit topical, but the ones who have been making money off of these Nintendo licensed products without actually having the legal means of profiting off of these videos. I mean, people who haven't been making any money off of them won't see anything different. Most people have ad blocker anyway, so the viewers won't be impacted by it in any way. And anyone who's a part of a network that has a license to profit off of Nintendo games, I assume will be able to get past this, but of course I don't have the legal means of saying whether or not it's true. And I think using content ID matching, if you've been around YouTube as long as I have, you know how shoddy content ID matching can be. So I don't think that was the best way to go about doing it. Nintendo was fully within their right to do it. I just don't think that at this point it's nearly as big an issue as a lot of people are making it out to be. Sasami-chan asks, how did you come up with the great Zelda song near the end of your Link to the Past Let's Play? I appreciate you calling it great. I certainly don't think it was. I mean, I do like to think I have a way with words in writing, maybe not necessarily in commentary. But in terms of singing, I don't think I have nearly as good a voice as I used to. I mean, a lot of people told me that I did, but I know I don't now. I do appreciate how you did enjoy the song. I wanted to do something special for it, because for a number of previous Let's Plays, I'd done something special leading up to the finale, but I couldn't necessarily do one for Link to the Past. And I know I mentioned this when I was in Ganon's Tower. A couple of days before I started recording the finale, somebody posted a comment on my Twilight Princess finale about liking how I led up to the final battle, and I realized that I probably wanted to do something special for Link to the Past, and the song was really the only thing I could think of. Who do you give awards for the best reviewer, best Let's Player, best artist, best original song? I've already talked about best Let's Player. I don't watch too many reviewers, so I feel like giving an award for that would be a little bit hollow. Same with original song and best artist. I mean, I'm not nearly as cultured as... Oh, who am I kidding? Nobody who watches my stuff expects me to be cultured. I'm not cultured, I don't listen to music, I don't have favorite artists. So, I hate to leave a question hanging like that, but I really don't know how to answer it. Hedgetex asks, How do you choose what game you're going to make a Let's Play of? Usually whatever I'm feeling at the time. I have a bit of a short list as to what games I'd like to get to at some point, but which of them I decide to Let's Play really depends on what I'm feeling at the time. Iceboy1221 asks, what Let's Play are you most and least proud of? The least proud of, I can tell you right off the bat, is probably Cruisin' World. Now, Cruisin' World was a game I was really feeling for 1 or 2 particular weeks, and I'd even gotten the Nintendo 64 out of the closet along with the game, and I started playing it and getting reacquainted with the controls, and I was having a lot of fun because this is a game that not too many people know about, or if they do, they don't see it very often. And 1, I couldn't get my recording device to work, so I had to switch over to an emulator to record it. And 2, when I did finally record it, I wasn't very happy with it. I mean, more so than usual. I'm usually never happy with any of the Let's Plays that I do in the first place. But for this one in particular, I really wasn't very happy with. The issue was, once I finished recording it, I simply wasn't motivated to go back to it. I didn't have the same drive to record Cruisin' World again. So I was torn between whether or not to show it, because I was really enthusiastic about it when I recorded it. I just wasn't very happy with the product, and I don't know if it came off that way in the Let's Play or not. It did, especially at the end, but I felt compelled to put it up because I didn't know if I would ever be as motivated to play it again as I was at that point, and I wanted to show it off at some point. As far as the Let's Play I'm most proud of, and this is very difficult to say as well because I am a terrible judge of my own work, the one that I put the most effort into, which I assume was painfully obvious, was Pokémon Soul Silver with all the backgrounds and stuff. That took a lot more effort than I expected it to. But as I alluded to before, I don't know how entertaining I can make a Pokémon game, especially for 120 videos worth of content, and at least in terms of that, in terms of the commentary and making it entertaining, I don't know how good a job of it I did compared to some of the other people who are more used to doing these kinds of games. And I want to say some of the stuff that I did blind, like Link to the Past and Super Metroid, I'm kind of proud of because those are more genuine, listening to my thought processes, and even though it's not exactly a show of skill or talent in any means, it is a glimpse into the mind that is UniversalGiant, and at least in that regard, I'd like to think it's something to be proud of, maybe. I'm actually proud I did Jet Force Gemini a couple of years ago, too, because I really do love that game, and in terms of skill going into it, I didn't think I was very good at it, but looking around to see other people play it, I find myself yelling at them for not doing it well. Maybe I'm better at that game than I gave myself credit for. And I guess throwing out another one, Mother 3, I don't know. You know how down on myself in terms of doing the commentary stuff that I am. With Mother 3, I did my best to make sure that I let the game speak for itself as opposed to talking over specific points or trying to take away from the story in any way. And in that regard, I think I did the best with Mother 3 simply because the game itself was speaking for me. Ocarina Player 64 asks, how many friends do you have that you like to record/play with? Now, you already know I'm doing a co-op with Snicker for Return to Dreamland. And in terms of Mario Kart videos, Brawl videos, I know I've done a couple of Draw My Things and other stuff, I have a bunch of friends on Skype that I like to record with. So I can't really put a number to it because it depends on what we're recording and in what capacity you think recording/playing with means, like being in the same room or just recording with somebody across the country over Skype. But, I mean, I've done a number of different co-ops with a number of different people. The Dinosaur64 asks, can you Let's Play Metroid Fusion? Now the funny thing is, this was a question that I was asked immediately after finishing Super Metroid, but after that point, it just slipped my mind. One thing I will say about Metroid Fusion, I have seen the game played 100% in full. That said, it was 3 years ago, and I remember absolutely nothing of it, except for Adam. and the end. At least in terms of the story. But everything else in terms of gameplay I remember literally nothing about. So it is something that I've considered doing in the future. I just don't know when. It depends on when I'm feeling it. UniGiant 2, who is not me. I don't know how many people get confused when he comments on one of my videos, but UniGiant 2 is not me. He asks, do you think you have grown up in terms of games through the last 3 years, or do you feel that gaming choices are the same as when you were a kid? I like to think that I have the same taste in games as when I was a kid, insofar as those are the games that I connect with most because those are the ones that I grew up on. I do have a new appreciation for games that have story or significance in terms of symbolism and stuff, and in terms of understanding more complicated games or complex systems within them, like battle systems and other game-related mechanics, I do feel that I've matured in that regard. I still have a special place in my heart for the games that I loved when I was a kid. Out of Mario Kart or Brawl, which one do you like best in terms of gameplay? I think, considering how many more videos I have on Mario Kart than I do Brawl, that kind of answers the question. I do enjoy Brawl, but I'm nowhere near good enough at it that I'm confident in posting as many videos of it as I am Mario Kart. And at least with Mario Kart, there's so much unknown. I mean, it's easy to get aggravated by somebody who has a much lower skill level than you beating you at Mario Kart. But it's that excitement that makes it all that more entertaining. Whereas with Brawl, you don't necessarily have that. It's a lot of frustration. Mario Kart, you get that, but it's a more fun kind of frustration. I do enjoy that more than I enjoy Brawl. What video game inspired you to start uploading videos to YouTube? Now this goes back to the one that I answered at the very beginning in terms of how I got started. One of the two games I was looking at to see whether or not it would be worth buying was Mario Kart Wii. And I guess the rest is history. Sir Oliver Spilsbury asks, what's your opinion on the Wii U? If it had more games that were worth buying, I would buy it. I still have my Wii, and I don't really have the intention of buying a Wii U anytime soon until I have a short list of 2 or 3 games that I absolutely want for it. I don't necessarily have it now, so that's really the extent of my opinion on the Wii U. What is your favorite game series and why? This is probably going to go to The Legend of Zelda. Ever since I got Ocarina of Time when I was a kid, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, gone back to play Majora's Mask, you've seen me play Link to the Past, Minish Cap, Skyward Sword, and maybe a handful of others. But I can't really think of another franchise of games that I've put so much time into and love so many different games within the franchise. And Omar112 asks, do you play PC games? If so, which ones? No. It's something I've been meaning to look into, but I really haven't. Galactic Ranger 64 asks, what are your opinions on the new Super Luigi Bros. U DLC and hard copy game? I don't have the game, I've seen maybe 2 minutes of footage from it, I can't really form an opinion. ACDC0117 asks, what do you think Sega should feature in the next Sonic game? Sonic. Nothing fancy, just Sonic. If you could be any Nintendo character, who would you be? You know, I'd probably have to go with Kirby. I feel like a week later, when I finally get around to finishing this video and editing it together and putting it up, that I'll probably have a better answer to this. But just being able to take the abilities of all of your enemies and use them as your own just adds so much in terms of what you can do. And at least in terms of adaptability or being able to try new things or show off new powers, Kirby's really fascinating in that respect. And I don't know how I feel about being an 8-inch tall puffball, the pink puffball, but I really envy the fact that he's able to take all of these different abilities and use them as his own. 156 Bowler asks, what is your least favorite video game? Now, similar to my response to who's your least favorite Let's Player, if I don't like a video game, I simply don't give it the time of day. So, if I don't like something, I'll completely forget about it and move on to another one. So I can't really put an answer to that either. Hedgetex asks, what is your favorite game music and why? This one is extremely difficult to answer too. Oh boy. I know Positive Force from VVV is up there. There are a couple of others as well. Let me go through my library really quick. I want to say it's a toss-up between that and... maybe Dragon Roost Island from Wind Waker? I mean, there are so many pieces of video game music that I absolutely love, but I want to say those are the two that I enjoyed listening to the most. Amir Ali asks, what was your first game? Tetris for the Game Boy. What do you like more, the Nintendo DS or the Nintendo Wii? I'd have to side with the Wii simply because I don't own my own DS. iRoll904 asks, what is your favorite gaming console? Now this is a bit of a cop-out answer as well. The Wii, because it can play Wii games, my GameCube games, Nintendo 64 games, and Super Nintendo games, and Nintendo games, and all of the other kinds of games you can get on the Virtual Console. In terms of just one console, not necessarily the one that can play games from a whole bunch, probably have to go with a Nintendo 64. Latino Heat 3454 asks, will you ever get Steam? I actually went to check whether or not I had a Steam account today, and it turns out I do. The last time I logged in was 604 days ago. It has absolutely no games on it. So the answer is yes, I have it. It is not currently in use. Jurojack asks, can I have a cookie? Sure you can, just be sure to share it in equal halves to whoever else wants to have a cookie with you. And I'd be more than happy to part with a chocolate chip cookie, that's my favorite too. Iceboy1221 asks, what is your favorite sports team? In baseball, my favorite is the Yankees. In football, my favorite is the Giants. In basketball, my favorite is the Knicks. And if you forced me to pick a favorite hockey team, it would be the Rangers. All from the New York City area. Professor Koopa asks, can I get a shout out? You just did. Julian ERGFSK asks, you always talked about tight school schedules, physics and math, and I've always wondered about your major. Now, I've already graduated with my bachelor's degree. My major was in chemical engineering. Bet you didn't see that coming. Ocarina Player 64 asks, what does your face look like? It's got 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, 2 ears, and a pair of glasses sitting on the nose. Jonas Messiah or Messiah 13 asks, what are you doing for a living? Do you have a real job? I'm currently studying for my PhD, and that takes up just as much, if not more time, than a full-time job. So hopefully that'll land me a better one in a couple of years, but at least for now I'm still technically in school. And finally, Latino Heat 3454 asks, what's a question? Hopefully this video has provided you with enough examples of what a question is that you've essentially answered the question without my having to tell you. But of course it's a little silly for me to ask that, considering you already asked a question and have a full and complete understanding of what a question is in the first place. But I digress. Thank you guys so much for all of your questions, all of your support over the last 3 to 4 years, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the journey, whatever that may bring. This is UniversalGiant, and I'll see you guys next time.